Good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. You're listening to SIRAJ ZAIDI until 4 o'clock. Local time, India time, 8:30, and anywhere else in the world you can work it out. Yeah, GST as they call it. But here we are, another week, another talk, another guest, another music, and another program. So the world never stops, neither do I, because the world is moving so fast that we don't have time to catch our breath. But I must catch my breath first. Another program, as I said. Very welcome to the program. You're listening to Apna Radio, broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. This is your own local broadcaster, SIRAJ, broadcasting from Dundrum Town Centre to the world. And so tune me in every week. You do tune me in. And so therefore, I'm really grateful to you for tuning me in. I'm not sure whether I do make sense or not. But as you know, I try my best to make a peace rather than the havoc in the world. And we'll talk about those who are responsible for making havoc. But I have in the studio a guest, and the guest is a Brazilian guest. Rodel Nascimento is going to talk about mind, body and soul and the balance of the human beings, and we'll talk about other things as well. Other thing, Brazilian, and my experience of dealing. By the way, I don't know, our Brazilian listeners, we have a program here on DSFM, a Brazilian program, and we'll get all that information to Rodel about that program. But without further ado, I do have, as usual, the news. Charmaine is here in the studio, so we will try to actually find out what's going on in the world. Through Charmaine, I will be back soon.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. On India this week, as the death toll in Iran surpasses over 2,500, the Indian embassy in Iran asked all nationals, including students, pilgrims, business people and tourists, to leave the country using available means, including commercial flights. The situation in the country has taken a turn for the worse, with weeks-long protests showing no signs of slowing down. Earlier this week, US President Donald Trump called upon protesters to take over their institutions, urging them not to back down. Without providing further details, he said that help was on the way. On the other hand, Iranian officials have accused the US and Israel of destabilizing the country by instigating protesters, blaming the deaths on terrorist operatives. Against this backdrop, Indians have now been urged to exercise extreme caution, avoid protest areas, stay in touch with the Indian embassy in Tehran, keep travel and identification documents ready, and monitor local developments. Those not registered with the embassy have been asked to do so at the earliest, while emergency helpline numbers and email support have been activated for assistance. The Iran protests, which began over double-digit inflation and currency devaluation, have entered their 20th day plus and have spiralled into deadly clashes across some 280 locations nationwide. Amid Trump's rhetoric urging protesters and murmurs of a possible US strike, international news agency Reuters reported that several personnel were advised to vacate the US's largest military base in West Asia, the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, by Wednesday evening as a precautionary posture change in response to rising tensions. A similar directive had been given ahead of the US's airstrikes on Iran in June last year, when personnel were moved off US bases in the Middle East before operations commenced. Meanwhile, Tehran has warned neighbouring countries against hosting US troops, saying it would attack American bases if the White House continues to intervene during the protests in Iran. India and the US are continuing to actively engage on trade deal negotiations, Sergio Gore, the new US ambassador to India, has said during a trip to Delhi. The next call to discuss the deal was scheduled for this week, Gore said, but did not elaborate on who would participate. He also said the friendship between US President Donald Trump and Indian PM Narendra Modi was real and that real friends can disagree but will always resolve their differences at the end. Gore's remarks come just days after some US officials blamed India for the delay in signing the deal, a claim that Delhi has denied. Trade negotiations between the nations have been strained since the US imposed 50% tariffs on Indian goods, the highest in Asia, in August, including penalties linked to India's purchase of Russian oil. Washington has pushed for greater access to India's agricultural sector, a long-standing sticking point which Delhi has strongly resisted. Sworn in at the White House in November, Gore is yet to formally present his credentials to India's president. Earlier this week, he was formally welcomed as the ambassador at an event in Delhi. The ceremony had the feel of a mini inauguration, rich in pomp and careful stage management. A round of applause greeted him before he addressed reporters. Speaking to reporters, he described India as having no partner more essential than the US, adding that the bilateral relationship could become the most consequential partnership of the century. Gore said that the two sides were working closely on very important areas, such as security, counter-terrorism, energy, technology, education and health. Relations between Trump and Modi, once seen as warm, have cooled in recent months, with disagreements ranging from trade to India's stance on mediation on its conflict with Pakistan, even as the two leaders continue to speak periodically by phone. Last Friday, India's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said that both sides had been close to a deal on several occasions, but they remain engaged in negotiations. Meanwhile, Trump has made several comments about India and Modi in recent days, including a warning that he would increase tariffs if Delhi does not stop buying Russian oil. Separately, US Senator Lindsey Graham last week said that Trump had greenlit a punishing Russian sanctions bill that, if passed by Congress, would allow for even higher secondary tariffs and sanctions on countries doing business with Moscow. The Indian government has asked all quick commerce platforms to drop the controversial 10-minute delivery promise amid concerns over worker safety. The decision follows discussions between the Federal Labour Ministry and company officials after a recent nationwide strike by delivery riders over dangerous working conditions. The discussions involved major brands like Zomato, Blinkit and Zepto, which allow urban shoppers to order groceries and a range of items, including electronics and household supplies, within minutes. While hugely popular with customers, the model has been criticised for putting pressure on gig workers and exposing them to serious safety risks. Last month, thousands of delivery workers went on strike demanding fair wages, dignity and safer conditions. While the disruption to customers was limited, the protest sparked a fierce debate about the human cost of such a service in one of the world's fastest-growing digital economies. Following the strike, a closed-door meeting was held in which the government urged quick commerce companies to stop promoting tight delivery deadlines. It's not yet clear whether all firms have fully complied. Some platforms, such as Blinkit, have already removed the explicit 10-minute delivery promise from their branding and marketing, and others are expected to follow in the coming days. Quick commerce has grown rapidly in India's cities since the COVID pandemic, with platforms using small neighbourhood warehouses to supply groceries and household goods within minutes. The boom came at a time when India's gig industry is also expanding, with the number of workers projected to rise from 7.7 million in 2021 to 23.5 million by 2030. As competition intensified, companies have promised even faster deliveries, reshaping urban shopping habits. Critics say these pledges have raised customer expectations and increased stress for riders, often encouraging unsafe riding practices. At least 20 people have been killed by a wild elephant in 9 days in the eastern Indian state of Jharkhand, officials have said, adding that the animal is yet to be captured. The deaths occurred between the 1st and 9th of January in the Chaibasa and Kolhan forest areas of West Singhbum district, which are part of one of the largest sal forests in Asia. Human-elephant conflict has been reported in the region for years, with officials and researchers linking it to shrinking forest cover, habitat fragmentation, and increased human activity near elephant corridors. A massive search operation involving more than 100 forest personnel is underway to locate the elephant, according to officials. This is an unprecedented situation. It's the first time such a pattern of fatalities has been linked to a single male elephant in the region, said Divisional Forest Officer Kuldeep Meena, adding that the entire area had been put on high alert to prevent further loss of life and property. Their immediate priority, he said, was to trace, capture and safely return the animal into the wild. Most of the deaths occurred at night when residents were guarding paddies stored in fields and barns, a common practice in rural India. And finally, hundreds of fans and admirers are bidding farewell to Indian singer and actor Prashant Tamang, who rose to fame 2 decades ago after winning the 3rd season of popular music reality show Indian Idol. Tamang, 43, who was from the hill town of Darjeeling in West Bengal state, died of a cardiac arrest at his house in Delhi on Sunday. And that's all from me. You have been listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Eu pensei em tanta coisa, tudo aquilo que eu podia conquistar. Vou dormir 3 e pouca. Pedro, você acorda cedo, é que eu preciso de um tempo pra cantar. Deixa o sono pra depois, deixa eu construir, construir, construir. Deixa tudo pra depois, vou ficar aqui, vou ficar aqui. Quando tu tiver com tanto tempo que tu tem tédio, não tem verso, vai ser difícil ser feliz. Quero te ver cozinhando track que te traz cash, que te mexe, tudo que eu sempre quis. Faz tempo que eu curto a correria que te faz vivo, que tem motivo. É difícil, mas não consigo fugir. Hoje eu deitei pra dormir e eu pensei em tanta coisa, tudo aquilo que eu podia conquistar. Vou dormir 3 e pouca. Pedro, você acorda cedo, é que eu preciso de um tempo pra cantar.
So that was a beautiful song. It's a Brazilian song, and as I was telling you about my guest in the studio, and Rodel is here, Rodel Nacinto. Rodel, you most welcome to the program, and tell me about the song that you just heard.
Thank you very much for having me. So this song, it's called Eu Pensei, from Pedro Mizutani and Skin Shape, and he just sings about his day.
Right.
So how important for him to sing and to sleep and to relax. And I think his voice is amazing, and I love his song, his sound.
And is he a big name in Brazil at the moment?
Yeah, I think he's an upcoming artist now. He's a young guy from Rio, and he just plays amazing samba, and I think he's going to be huge. And
Skin Shape is his band name of his record or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a multi-instrumental producer, so it's Skin Shape's like kind of group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So tell me about your own self. Who are you?
Well, my name is Rodel Nascimento. I'm Brazilian. I live in Ireland for nearly 19 years now.
Wonderful.
I work with energy healing, facilitating meditation and mental projections and all of that. So part of my work.
Okay.
I've been a Reiki master for over 13 years now. So
right.
I like helping and guiding people.
And this particular thing which you do, how it happened, was it always you wanted, or how it came about? Did you feel a need for that you need to do this kind of stuff, or?
I think I grew up in a very, kind of a spiritual setup. So it came to a stage, I think, in my life, I wanted to search on my own. And I find different stuff, and I found holistic therapies, and that's how I came about to find Reiki, and I fell in love with it, and I did all of the training, and I really enjoy. And
there are courses here for Reiki qualifications and all. So you will be the qualified Reiki teacher.
I am a qualified Reiki teacher and master. Yes, I am.
You have a master's in that?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you get this from?
I got from, you see, when you're studying Reiki, there's 3 levels: the Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and Reiki 3. That's the master and the teacher training.
Teacher's training.
Yeah, program. Teacher's training. So you're able to teach as well as treat people.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's
and you do a regular session every week or every day, every month? How do you operate now?
Okay, so now because I have integrated different techniques into my work, so my sessions, they are usually, I recommend, we do a minimum of 5 sessions once a week. So it's a treatment, it's a deeper treatment where we treat the emotional body, our physical body, our psychological body, and all the levels and layers of our being. Because we are not only a physical body, so we have 7 layers of energy that needs treatment as well and needs to be aligned so we can function healthily.
Interesting, very interesting. Not many people know that, in fact. Not ordinary people are just rushing from A to B, doing their job, running their houses, going to their work and back again. But it's a real luxury and indulging within yourself, in fact, and exploring your own energy.
Yeah, I think going into it's self-knowledge. The deeper you go and knowing who you are, you end up knowing so deep that you recognize your needs. And, you can shuffle the energy, all the negative blockage that you have, that you keep the score in your body. That's all moving, and you're able to release that when you start to go deep, and Reiki and the different techniques that we have all around the world now and different practices, we can all assist in people and releasing that energy and moving, past negative emotions and traumas and all of that.
Because it's so important, because people are full of anxiety these days because of what's going on in the world. And, as you heard on the news and you heard the tension in the world. Yesterday was Venezuela, now Iran, and we're talking about Iran today in our program as well. So, how do you reconcile with yourself if you are consuming all that information, television, news, whatever?
Well, I have a...
You should sometime.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Just switch off the news.
Switch off the news, yeah.
Switch off the news.
All right.
Because it's okay for us to know what's going on, but the deeper you go into those issues, right, especially us that we're standing from observation point, right, because...
We can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you get caught up in the energy of fear that the whole situation is created, right? The war, the imminence of war and suffering and hunger. Okay, if we can do our part, donating or, helping shelters and that, brilliant. But if you're just watching the news to know what's going on, this you can feel in your stomach, that kind of ball of anxiety that you feel that the world is gonna end in any minute, That's not healthy. That's not healthy because it ends up reflecting your life because you live in fear.
Absolutely. And most of the news that we've been manufactured these days is contrived. It's not true anyway. It's false news. As they say in war, the first casualty is the truth. and negativity and all the rest of it. Who's feeding the script is to somebody who's reading the news is something which that's what it is. It's nothing to do with the actual reality itself. So that's a big thing. But your experience dealing with with this kind of energy and this kind of your practice of meditation and Reiki, does it makes you a better person?
Absolutely.
How?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because, you start to recognize your own patterns and your own issues and your own difficulties, and you start working through them. And so you learn so much, and you learn to let go, and you learn to be in the present moment. That's a big difference. We have computers in our hands now with phones, right? So we are constantly checking our social medias or media.
Watching reels.
Yeah, media outlets. So it's a lot of information that our brain and just not capable to process everything. So that naturally creates anxiety because we're just being fed.
So what's your suggestion? Switch off, walk around, or go away?
Switch off, go find exercise to do. So we have to keep a mind, body, and soul balanced and aligned, because at the end of the day, that's our vehicle to walk through planet Earth, so we have to look after it.
Yeah.
Find an activity, find a hobby that you enjoy, and find connection with your own community. That's very important,
That's very important, yeah.
So, because that immediate help, that's what's going to change. So when you start to see and feel that you're a bit anxious or, too overwhelmed with everything, just stop, switch off news and everything, listen to some good music that's going to bring up and raise your vibration, because we are energy beings, and we are reflecting constantly. So we are electromagnetic field. So you are, retro feeding. So what you are attracting, you are vibrating as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what you consume. You actually project it back.
Exactly.
The back project. You are a mother. You're an excellent individual in terms of professional and your own profession, but you're also a mother of 2 boys. And you're also running this particular, and it is a business for you, is it?
It is
a business, yeah.
It is a whole meditations groups and healing groups.
Okay. So how can people find you, and where can they connect with you and all that?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. My tag is it's Reiki, Healing with Reiki, at Healing with Reiki. So I keep everyone posted on what I'm doing. You can book sessions with me, so you can start your own journey of, self-awareness and self-development. I'll be more than happy to help you and guide you through your own path and through your journey of self-discovery. And also with the meditation and the healing groups, it's a really interesting experience, since I guide people through mental projection, where I bring your consciousness to a place, and there I do the healing. So it's very powerful session, and I do in groups, which is amazing. So.
Right. And when you meditate, what goes in your head? Where does it go anywhere, or does it? Are you thinking about something, or do you keep it brain absolutely empty? I'm fascinated by the whole process.
Okay, so the way I meditate, I think there's different ways, but to meditate, and different people have their own, I don't know, let's say styles. But but just breathing in and breathing out.
Okay.
Let's start there. Because when you bring your attention to your breathing, your mind doesn't go anywhere, because you're focused on your breathing. That's meditation.
Wow. That is powerful.
Just start there. When you feel overwhelmed and you feel anxious, stop and notice your body moving through deep breathing.
Right.
And from there, you can just sit and watch, observe your breathing. And then you can move. It's natural for the mind to keep, thinking. What I suggest is just observe the thoughts. Don't give them attention.
Okay.
Just observe them. watch them pass as if it was like a cinema screen.
Okay.
So the movie is passing, but you're not paying attention.
Okay.
Let it pass. Let it pass. Let it pass.
Okay.
And just focus on your breathing.
So you analyze basically what's going on through your mind, but you're not actually paying too much attention.
You are observing.
You're observing.
Yes, you're observing. So you're not the mind, you're just observing that.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, fantastic. Great. So listen, tell me about where people can find you, your contact number or anything, Instagram or anything, and how much is it, or is it cheap? Everybody can afford it and all that?
Yeah, everyone can afford. You can send me a message on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your number?
Yeah, it's 087 956 0562.
087
956
956
0562.
0562. That's Ridel's text message. You can give it to her. And if you're interested in talking about or joining the session with her, she regularly runs these sessions, and indeed, it's a mind, body, spirit. It's a huge industry, by the way, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I think we are living in the time we're living, we are having a huge opportunity to reconnect to our essence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the whole purpose of life, is reconnect and remember who we are.
Who we are, yeah.
Who we are.
Exactly.
Because we are love, we are peace.
We are peace, yeah.
But let's use that opportunity, especially in moments of crisis, that you are able to use that peace and that love and that compassion to help others.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. No, that is so important, because that is what it's all about. And I remember there is a festival of Mind, Body and Soul as well. Mind, Body and Soul Festival.
Yeah.
Do you participate in that?
I've done it before.
Okay.
I actually have done it before. I participated with the Reiki Federation of Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Wonderful.
was, oh my God, I think maybe 12 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe. Yes.
Wonderful.
And I was understanding with the Federation. It was really good.
Okay.
And I know they run twice a year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I've heard about it. I came across, and I think I've covered it in my show as well. So once again, thank you very much indeed for coming along and talking about and sharing this whole technique and whole expertise and qualification that you have with our listeners. Hope people will be connecting with you. And I'll give once again the number 087 956 0562. And you can reach Ridel Nacinto on this number, and she is a Reiki specialist. Once again, thank you so much, Ridel.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the Dundrum Town Centre, this is Dublin South FM.
Are you part of a local community group or representative organisation active in the Dun Laoghaire Rathdown area? Why not join a network of over 400 such groups in the Dun Laoghaire Rathdown Public Participation Network? You can join the group, influence local policy, get regular updates about funding and other opportunities, connect with other groups like yours, publicise your group, and even get free training and support. Make sure your voice is heard through DLR Public Participation Network as a registered group in the county. Dun Laoghaire Rathdown Public Participation Network. For full information, find us online at dlrppn.ie. That's dlrppn.ie.
Broadcasting to South Dublin on 93.9. This is Dublin South FM.
Now, that was a Brazilian guest, Ridel, and so therefore you can, you can connect and you can see that what's going on there in her world. Now, talking about the festival, there are a few festivals that is going on, and right now I would like to congratulate and share the happy Makar Sankranti, which is an Indian festival of kite flying. In fact, the sky is lit up with millions of kites all over India on this particular festival. It is kind of like giving you an indication that the winter is coming down, coming to an end, spring is coming up, and that relates to another festival of Lohri. Lohri is a Punjabi festival, usually linked with the harvest in Punjab, where the harvest has been done. So therefore, the Lohri is also right now being celebrated. And in the south of India, Pongal, India is a continent. It's a huge country. It's a massive country of 1.4 billion people. So Pongal is a South Indian film festival. And now, during these kind of like a so-called traditional festival, we have a very famous literary festival called the Jaipur Literary Festival. Jaipur Lit Fest, as we call it. And this year we have Fintan O'Toole, our own wonderful Irish Times columnist and writer, an intellectual, philosopher, whatever you name it. Fintan is an old friend of mine. He's traveling to India this year and participating. He's written a book, by the way, which I've just finished called We Don't Know Ourselves. And that's talking about Irish people. If you're interested in Ireland, Irish people, he's talking about the recent past history. And he's retired now, by the way, from the Irish Times. Occasionally, his article pops up as an opinion column rather than the regular column. So he must be 70 plus now at this stage. But Fintan's mind is an amazing mind, because if you search Fintan O'Toole and his article, you'll be amazed at the amount of knowledge this man. Now, talking about Fintan, I don't want to go into it. I know too much about it because he's a friend, and he's also had a great life. He taught in New York and all that. But that's it. I suppose this is a festive season are kicking in, and that will carry on until the grand Holi festival would come, the festival of colour, where people throw colour on each other, and that will happen in March, so that's not too far from now.
Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
American President Trump writes all this and declares on his Truth Social platform, Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The US stands ready to help. Strong action if Iran execute protesters. Help is on the way. The words are grand, the sentiment on the surface sounds humanitarian, but the reality beneath them is far noble and far more destructive. Because if there is one external force that has consistently crippled the daily lives of ordinary Iranians over past 8 decades, it's not war, not even internal mismanagement alone, not the brutal regime. They are the consequence. It is just sanctions, led, designed, enforced, and repeatedly intensified by the United States of America. To understand today's protest in Iran, one must look not just at Tehran's rulers, but at Washington's policies and at how economic punishment, sold as moral pressure, has hollowed out an entire Persian society, entire Iran. So this is not the story about hashtags, slogans, or even about geopolitics in the abstract. This is the story about daily lives, the food, the medicines, the dignity, and how slow violence of economic warfare has uprooted the entire Middle East. The immediate trigger of the current wave of protest is not ideology, it is economics. This is what everybody else in the world understands, and it is unforgiving economics. So what happens is, on December 28th last year, 2025, shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar closed their shutters, not in rebellion, but in desperation. The Iranian rial, the currency, had plunged to historic lows. By early January, it was trading at 1.4 million rials to a dollar, compared to about 700,000 a year earlier. So roughly a drop of double. This was not merely a financial statistics. This was the price of bread doubling. The cost of living crisis at its worst. The cost of cooking oil is becoming unaffordable, and medicines are disappearing from the pharmacy shelves. The food prices are now 72% higher than last year, and year on year, the food prices are growing. Salaries, especially in the public sector, have not kept pace. Teachers, nurses, municipal workers, once the backbone of Iran's middle class, now finds themselves sliding into what economists call the working poor. So the protest, initially an economic protest, quickly became political, and they always do when survival is threatened, and legitimacy of this protest then follows. In a bigger picture, we should understand that Iran, for decades together, is one of the world's most sanctioned nations. Iran is not merely sanctioned, it is structurally strangled. US sanction on Iran began in 1979 following the Islamic Revolution as they call and the US embassy hostage crisis. But the roots of hostility runs deeper, back to 1953, and that is what we all need to understand. So what happens in 1953 is that US and British intelligence orchestrated a coup against Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, and that is when he nationalized Iranian oil. So the story of oil comes back over and over again, whether it is Iraq, whether it is Venezuela, whether it is Iran now. That coup then restores the Shah of Iran. So he is monarch of Iran, backed by Washington, armed by Washington, and tolerated despite widespread repression. For many Iranians, sanctions are not just policy tools, they are continuation of long history of foreign interference. Now, this foreign interference, who would allow, which sovereign country would allow? Will Britain allow any foreign intervention? Will America allow the Russians to play with its elections? But then, ironically, it's the American foreign policy and the foreign policy of West that is interfering in the functioning of Iran. And that is how it is destabilizing the entire country over a period of time. So after 1979, Washington froze $12 billion in Iran's asset, banned oil imports, and several trade ties were cut. And over time, the sanctions only multiplied, whether it was a Republican or a Democrat government in America. So oil, which is the base of survival of Iran, has been cut, has been strangulated. Further, in 1995, Bill Clinton banned US investments in Iran's oil and gas. And 2006, the United Nations Security Council joined in imposing a nuclear-related sanction, and the European Union followed. Now, this is going on for very long, and forever Israel, and especially the current Prime Minister Netanyahu, has been shouting, proclaiming that Iran is just a week away from a nuclear bomb. And that is like 40 years we have been hearing this. He has said that on all stages across the world. But then the reality is different. It's just a propaganda. But something positive did happen in year 2015 when JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was signed with US, UK, France, Germany, Russia, China, and the European Union. And Iran accepted the most intrusive nuclear inspection regime in the world. It capped uranium enrichment, dismantled centrifuges, and transformed the Fordo facility. In return, these sanctions were lifted, and that is how the JCPO was working. But then came Trump 1.0. In 2019, Donald Trump tore the entire deal, and what was followed, he called it as maximum pressure campaign. Yes, Iran's nuclear program and its hostile posture toward Israel have played an important role in hardening the international sanctions, but they are not just the only drivers. See, sanctions stem from a mix of nuclear proliferation fears, regional security dynamics, because Israel has always given a threat perception, and broader geopolitical tensions with the United States and its allies. So these factors have reinforced each other over decades, helping create an extensive sanctions regime that we are seeing today. So what we are hearing is the leader repeatedly stating that they will act to prevent Tehran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And that's through military strike that we saw last year. Now, Israel operations and statements have in turn only given pressure to the Western governments to keep the sanctions tight. So overall, if you see, it is economic warfare by design. The Washington does not like the current government because it is fundamentalist, because they in retaliation are supporting Hezbollah. In retaliation, they are supporting Hamas. In retaliation, they are supporting the Houthis in Yemen. So there is a group in Middle East which is against the Israeli government, and there is a group in Washington that is trying to control the oil of the world, trying to control the governments of the world which are standing up to the US foreign policies. Whether it is Cuba, to Iraq, to Venezuela, what we have seen is there is a resistance against United States. The insecurity that the West, the foreign policy of US and the West imposes on the Iran has given Iran a reason to suppress any voices of its protesters, any voices of dissent. And of course, the sanctions are creating internal mismanagement, and repression is therefore a matter of concern. The sanctions only magnify failures and they remove incentives for reform. Even the noble voices from inside the Iran, like Narges Mohammadi, the Nobel laureate who is in prison, she is calling for peaceful change from within. She is not calling for oppression, although she is fighting against oppression. So overall, the situation is a mix of sanctions, of power struggle, of intention to capture oil, of intention to dislodge the democratically elected government of Iran. The result of the economic warfare is that Iran's GDP per capita has fallen from $8,000 in 2012 to just $5,000 by 2024. And oil exports of Iran has fallen to 80%. So there is basically no economy, there is basically no money that the Iranian government has. And still, it has to survive, it has to feed the entire population. On top of it, the insecurity has given a budget, a defense budget to the government, and tens of billions of dollars are erased annually by Iran in order to survive, buy arms from Russia or China. And this money obviously is getting diverted from Iranian public services, infrastructure, and subsidies. So the currency, the Iranian currency has collapsed, which is making the imports becoming prohibitively expensive. Access to global banking has vanished because of these sanctions. Even humanitarian trade like food and medicines are strangled by compliance fears from the other governments. And then Washington insists that sanctions are to target the regime, not the people. Where is the logic? Where is the reasoning? Where is the argument of these sanctions? And they are continuing since 1979. Somebody has to answer in the just governments of the West that these sanctions, what is the cost of human Iranian lives? The life expectancy has dropped by 20%. There have been more than 38 million deaths, 3 crore deaths since 1970s, which can be linked to the global sanctions on Iran. The medicines in Iran, the prices have surged 3 times for even the essential drugs. And they are all in the crossfire of these financial restrictions and the ban on the international financing. Because Iran cannot legally buy new aircraft or spare parts, it is forced to fly the aging fleet. And again, between 1979 had come into power, more than 2,000 people have died in air crashes that may be linked directly to the maintenance shortage caused by the sanctions. So overall, if you see, Iran is at a serious receiving end. But what is India's stance? So if you look at India's situation, so India in 1950 signed a friendship treaty with Iran, and New Delhi then wished to build ties with its West Asian neighbors, which was rooted in history and culture. So we should understand that India is highly influenced by the Iranian and the Farsi culture. India's foreign policy at the time emphasized non-alignment, as we know, and even as Iran was firmly in the US-led Western Bloc during the Cold War, India did not align with American blocs but preferred a non-aligned course while maintaining diplomatic engagement with Tehran. However, during the Iran-Iraq war between 1980 and 88, India did maintain a relatively neutral stance between the two countries, and in 1993, Prime Minister then Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao visited Iran and renewed interest in deeper engagements. In 2003, New Delhi Declaration between then BJP Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee further strengthened the Indo-Iran ties with Tehran Declaration with political dialogue and shared interest as regional security. There had been a long discussion for gas pipeline between Iran and India, and that was to provide energy security to India. So overall, if you see, India had been in close and friendly relationship, both from the historic point of view, modern politics point of view, and Iran had been a close trading partner as far as the oil is concerned. But then suddenly 2014 comes, India did realign itself towards the Israeli lobby. Although India did sign a Chabahar port project partnership, And that too, when the US sanctions were rising against Iran. But then, as we stand today, India has a very reduced Iranian oil imports, mostly pressurized by the US sanctions, and it is trying to keep a diplomatic neutrality as far as sanctions against Iran is concerned. While India is getting more friendlier with Israel, New Delhi is refraining from joining US pressure campaigns and is emphasizing on peaceful resolution in whatever terms that matter. Overall, if you see, the lessons are very, very clear. Any government which is not friendly with US and the West, one way or the other, will face sanctions, will face restrictions, will face some kind of pressure from these governments. Whether it is Cuba or Venezuela or even Russia, the geopolitics of sanctions, the geopolitics of trade restrictions are the tool to strangulate a country. If it is a small country like Cuba and Venezuela, or for that matter Iran, it shows results. But then when it comes to China, even with a higher tariff, they are able to create a $1 trillion surplus. So Iran is in difficulty. There are 2,500 protesters about who have been killed by the brutal regime in order to survive against the sanctions of United States and the West. There are executions. The humanity is at its lowest. In 2022, there were riots because of the oppressive government trying to impose a dress code, which I would suggest in a bigger picture are manifestation of even more brutal foreign policy of United States. So this is not the real freedom. This is not the real intention of the governments that are trying to impose on Iran. This is an agenda which is continuing for last 8 decades through friendly government or not so friendly government in Iran. So when Tehran's Grand Bazaar shut in December, it was an economic frustration of the sanctions, which had now been turned into a protest against the government. But then what can the governments do? What can a Cuban government do? For Venezuela, it was the reason of drugs. But ultimately, you see Trump sitting around with the largest oil players trying to negotiate a trade deal indefinitely in time for the Venezuelan oil. So the motives are clear. Cuba would have been far more easier target for US, but it does not have oil. It does not have any other resource where the governments can prey upon. So it is left to die its own death. It's left to economic warfare by design. And that is what my point is. Today, India is reeling under tariff of 25%. At one time, it was 50%. There is a threat. There is an arm twisting by the US government. Comply or face the sanctions. India was on the sanctions list when, for peaceful purpose, India did a nuclear test. But then, the inherent strength of India had overcome those sanctions, and that is what the mantra is. With those thoughts, with those situations, but fast-moving situation across the world, from Venezuela in the west to North Korea in the east, I leave you until next week. Stay safe, stay informed, and dutifully ask questions. Somebody has to stand up. Bye for now.
Dublin South FM.
You wouldn't buy a car without knowing its history. So why would you buy a story without knowing who's telling it? Come here and I tell you. It's not always easy to verify what you see, read, or hear. But now there's help. Visit www.bemediasmart.ie. Stop, think, check. Be Media Smart. Brought to you by Media Literacy Ireland, supported by RTE.
93.9 Dublin South FM.
Now, you remember we were talking about the crisis in Iran, and this particular information that I really like to share with you is something somebody has sent me about an individual who is talking about a very deep kind of concern about what's happening in Iran. And as you know, Shahid has talked about it. But this particular individual is really interesting. She is the daughter of Colonel Gaddafi. And Colonel Gaddafi is, as you know, was the ruler of Libya. But Libya is something, Libya is no longer Libya, is gone. And Colonel Gaddafi's daughter is living in exile. So I'm hoping that you would be able to pay attention to this particular piece that she has written about it in the social media that has been sent to me in the context of what's going on in that part of the world. So there you go. And let's see what it says. And that's obviously, she's obviously sympathizing with the people of Iran, because Iran is the focus. And you never know, in the next couple of days, somebody might bomb Iran. Somebody could actually, the Americans particularly, not somebody, the Americans, because that's what they are doing right now. So this is Aisha Gaddafi, as I was talking about, living in exile in Oman. So the daughter of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, she has sent a message to the people of Iran that is worth listening, what she has to say. And she says that, "Oh, steadfast and freedom-loving people of Iran, I speak to you from the heart full of destruction, pain, and betrayal. I'm the voice of a woman who witnessed the devastation of my own country, not at the hands of the enemies, but after being trapped in the deceptive smiles of the West and its false promises. I warned you not to fall for the deceitful words and slogans of Western imperialists. They once told my father, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, if you abandon your nuclear and missile programs, the doors of the world will open for you. My father, with good intentions and good-hearted, clean, upright man, and trustworthy man in dialogue, chose the path of the conscience. But in the end, we saw how NATO bombs turned our land into rubble. Libya was drowned in blood, and its people were trapped in poverty, exile, and destruction. My Iranian sisters and brothers, your courage, your dignity, and resilience in the face of sanctions, information, and economic warfare are proof of your nation's honor and true freedom. Giving concessions to the enemy brings nothing but destruction, division, and suffering. Negotiating with wolves will not save the sheep or bring lasting peace. It only sets the date for the next meal. History has proven that those who stood firm from Cuba, Venezuela, and North Korea to Palestine remain alive in the hearts of the world's heroes and become immortal in history and with honor. And those who surrendered to them were reduced to ashes, their names forgotten. Salute to the brave people of Iran. Salute to the Iranian resistance. Salute to the global solidarity with the Palestinian people. With love and compassion, Aisha Gaddafi. Now, that was Aisha Gaddafi, who really have, nailed that. This is the brave people of Iran that has been facing now a bully, the bulliest people in the world, who is obviously the Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump dancing at his tune. This is what baffles me, that how can a man could be dancing on his tune when we all know who this man is. But certain world, please, this is the world we are living in. If you're living in the world of Klaus Cuckoo land, that's a different thing. You can live as an ignorant, not knowing what's going on. But if you want to live with with information, the correct information, don't try to dabble into the reels and the social media, which is full of lies. People are spreading lies about, as I mentioned in my last program, NDTV of India has been spreading lies. And most of the medias who are bought by these, Adani group, who's in India as well. So many of those kind of things are being spread around. Don't believe anything like that. It is a great country. It is a brave country. It is a country which defeated the bigger powers in the past. For 11 years of the Saddam Hussein war that had been imposed upon this brave nation. But they knuckle under. They bravely fought and victoriously came out. Saddam Hussein is gone. Khomeini's revolution, Imam Khomeini's revolution in 1979 was the biggest turning point for the history of the nation itself, because the nation was plunged into corruption and poverty and uneducated environment and all that during the time of Shah Pahlavi. Now, the junior Shah Pahlavi has been backed by the US, backed by the his fate will exactly be the same like Ahmed Chalabi. If you remember, during the Iraqi war, Ahmed Chalabi has been promised X, Y, and Z, and as soon as he landed in Iraq, he's been captured and gone. Anyway, so it's a big thing. We need to watch the world with reliable news, national news. But unfortunately, our own national news, Reuters, and the Irish Times and the RTE is now a victim of this kind of false narrative which has been fed to the media outlets and PR companies, and those who are just want to paint one picture, and the picture of negativity about a nation, that they are brutally suppressing people. No, they're not. But who are these people? These people are the agents of Israel, agents of United States, paid heavily to destroy the nation. This burning buildings, burning cars, destroying and hurting the so-called civilian people. So it's a bad time of the year when it comes to watching the news. But as my guest Ridel has actually mentioned, Ridel Nascimento, that we should connect ourselves within ourselves, deep breathing, Reiki, and all of those things help you to meditate and see where you're going. Anyway, thanks for listening, and thank you very much indeed. And that was it. I might take one track again, which will be my goodbye track. But sit back, relax, and enjoy this track. And I say goodbye to you now. See you next week, same time, same place.
मेरी जिंदगी में तू है, मेरे पास क्या कमी है, जिसे गम नहीं खिजा का वो बहार तूने दी है, मेरे हाल पर हुई है तेरी खास मेहरबानी, तेरे पास मेरा दिल है, मेरे प्यार की निशानी, मुझे इश्क है तुझी से। तेरे हुस्न ने दिखाई मुझे बेखुदी की राहें, ये हसीन लब नशीले, ये झुकी झुकी निगाहें।